Hey everyone, thanks for joining us tonight. We're here for the 2022 US Rowing Northwest Youth Championships Coaches and Coxswains meeting. To go over a quick agenda, so today we're going to start with US Rowing and talk about review of registration and venue schedule. We'll go over in detail the code of conduct, which is new to US Rowing events this year, and then dive deep into Safe Sport and answer any questions that you may have on who needs to be compliant, and then also how you prove compliance when reporting it to Regatta Central. Then I'll go ahead and hand it off to Dee McComb, our chief referee, for a referee welcome, review of traffic patterns, US Rowing rules of rowing. We'll review on the water, racing, finish, and unsportsmanlike conduct. And then I'll go ahead and hand it off to our LOC, Molly, Kyle, and Sam, and they will review safety on venue in regards to evacuation plans and medical aid. And then a few parking and tent comments there too. So one note before we get started, this presentation will be recorded. It is being recorded. We will post this tomorrow and it will be posted on Regatta Central. So you can go ahead and send that out to all your coxswains, your rowers, and your other coaches if they're not able to make it tonight. And we'll also post this presentation. So please do review. Also, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A throughout. We will answer everything at the very end of it. So once again, my name is Sarah McAuliffe. I'm the Director of Events with US Rowing. On site, you will have Jules Zane, who is our Director of Membership, and Rich Cachopo, who's our Chief Programs Officer. So all three of us will be in attendance. From the LOC, we have Molly and Kyle here and are really excited to work with them. And for our Chief Referee is Dee McComb. So big thank you to Dee for leading all of this. So to go over the schedule, US Rowing registration tent is open on Thursday, May 19th from 12 to 6 p.m. So if you have any last minute lineup changes, scratches, potentially late ads if available, we'll be able to do those in person. There you'll also receive packets with all of your wristbands that will show who's compliant for this regatta. And then you'll also receive just like a US Rowing information sheet at that time. Then on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we'll be at the venue all day to answer any questions that you may have. Oops, sorry about that. We will not have practice for this regatta due to the long days on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then finally, the heat sheets for this event on Here Now will be posted on Monday, May 16th. Those will be linked to Regatta Central. So you can find those links there. But again, on Monday, May 16th, the lane assignments will be posted. To start off, US Rowing Code of Conduct. So that is new to our regattas this year. So I apologize, bear with me as I read through this, but this is super important. So I want to be sure that we're all on the same page. So to read it, at US Rowing, our mission is to champion participation in the passionate pursuit of excellence in rowing. To support this mission, we need to ensure rowing at all levels is fair, inclusive, competitive, and safe for all participants. Whether an athlete, coach, parent, vendor, staff, volunteer, or spectator at a US Rowing event, you are a member of the US Rowing community, and we invite you to enjoy this experience and expect you to abide by the following code of conduct. So the first point being safety and well-being. It's the top priority of US Rowing to safeguard the physical and emotional well-being of all community members. The second point being professionalism and integrity. US Rowing expects respectful and honest communication and behavior. The third point, the boathouse is open to everyone. As members of the US Rowing community, it is critical that we model positive behavior and advance the inclusive and competitive culture we envision. And then finally, non-compliance is not an option. So if a community member chooses not to follow the US Rowing Code of Conduct, there will be consequences. These could include disqualification, dismissal from the event, exclusion from future events, legal action, and revocation of your US Rowing membership. Please notify a US Rowing official in the event of witnessing illegal, discriminatory, or inappropriate activity. There will also be signage at the venue that will have the Code of Conduct posted. So please do share it with your athletes, coaches, and spectators as well. Then to go over safe sport. So I want to cover two areas. So who needs safe sport? And then on the next slide, I'll go over how to comply and where to post who is compliant with safe sport. So first thing, athletes 18 years of age and older And again, this is not rowing age. This is like the age that the athletes actually are right now. If you are 18 years of age and older and you are an athlete, all athletes are required to take the athlete-only training on Safe Sport. So what that looks like is you log into the US Rowing membership portal, put in your membership number, and then from there, you're able to click the athlete-only link. Then you'll go ahead, take that 30-minute training, and you'll show up compliant. If for whatever reason you are not showing up compliant, please email members@usrowing.org. And we'll go ahead and either, it's probably a duplicate membership account. We're not able to find your, maybe your name spelled wrong in 2 places. We'll just need to go ahead and merge that, and then it'll show compliant on our end. If you are not showing up compliant and it's race day or it's check-in day, I really recommend that all athletes and coaches have a screenshot of the completed training. And then we'll go ahead and just verify it with you that way and then be good to go. Then finally, authority and direct contact. So the next level of training, if you are of authority and direct contact, which we define as coaching or support staff, you will need the NGB1 core training, which is 90 minutes for the first year. And then the 3 years after that, it'll be 30 minutes of training. Anybody who is of direct contact, again, head coaches, assistant coaches, support staff who are with the team from the start of travel to the end of travel. And that could look like a rigger, that could look like a chaperone who's like helping carry oars, carry boats, whatever that may be. They'll need to go ahead and complete this NGB core training. People who the direct contact and authority training does not apply to. So like booster parents, chaperones who are just there for like maybe chaperoning dinner. We've had that scenario come up. So any parents that are helping out during the regatta in regards to food, they do not need to complete this training here, but please use your discretion. If you're, if somebody's within contact of your athletes for a long period of time, that will definitely be worthwhile. Finally, we have our no direct contact. So that's map awareness. US Rowing provides signage at all events that reviews the map policy. And that in summary basically says, if you see something that shouldn't be happening, you need to say something. So they do not need to go through a formal training on the US Rowing or Safe Sport website. They just need to view the signage, view the policy on the US Rowing website, and be aware of what to do in case there's a need. Then finally, how do I comply? So on this page, when you go into Regatta Central, when you log into the Northwest Youth Championships, on your overview page, you're going to go ahead to the left-hand column and it will say registration, and then 2 dots under that, it'll say Safe Sport. You'll go ahead and click on that item and this form is going to pop up for you. You'll go ahead and click this, select your club, and then select any athlete or support staff that will be in attendance and will be supporting your athletes in the sense of like bringing oars to the dock or beach, bringing, helping carrying a boat, helping any athlete launch or recover too. So again, anybody who's a direct contact with athletes needs to be on this list prior to arriving. And once you guys arrive to the championship, we'll go ahead and give the wristbands to coaches as well. And now I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to you, Dee.
Thank you. I don't know how many of my jury members, the referees that will be working the regatta on your behalf next weekend are actually on, but and I'd like to welcome them all. One of the things that we are basically here for is safety and fairness, and those are the 2 priorities, the same as US Rowing has. All of our referees next weekend will be from the Northwest region. We're going to offer you over 100 years of officiating experience. And again, we're here for everybody's safety and fairness. We're going to talk about the traffic patterns now, both for time trials and for the regular racing events that will be held. And I'm going to turn it over to Kyle, who is the water operations folks at PVRA, for giving you the lowdown.
Thanks, Dee. So I'm going to give a general overview of the two traffic patterns that we have for this regatta. And then a little bit later on, Dee will dive into the details of racing, getting locked on, finishing, and navigating everything in between. So just for reference, when we look at this map, to the left, you see the beach where the big star is. The left side of the beach is north. So when I say north, that's the left side of this map. So you'll be launching at the north end of the beach, the far north end of the beach after you check in. And you'll be going through our warm-up pattern, which is between the land and the inside of the course. So very simple. Keep your port oars to the red triangle buoys and starboard oars to the green triangle buoys. So as you warm up going inside the course, the water is up a little bit this year, so you shouldn't have any hazards, any issues, but always look for deadheads, branches in the water to hit, because those can pop up as the water rises. As you're warming up inside the course, be aware anybody that's racing coming down the course. If you see a race in motion, when they get close, as a courtesy, make sure to stop and wait for them to pass, because you do produce a little bit of a wake. So as you make it to the top of the course, you'll see you swing east, and you'll enter our warm-up pattern. So our warm-up pattern is clockwise, and this map is blown up a little bit to show the course being giant, pretty wide. It's not that wide, so you guys will have the luxury of probably about 500 to 700 meters each direction of warm-up. And the warm-up pattern will be designated with 4 green buoys, with an orange buoy at the first green buoy, triangle buoy, and the last green triangle buoy to designate the area. So feel free to cruise around the warm-up area, keeping cognizant of your time of your race. And about 10-15 minutes before it's time for you to race, make sure to slide out of the warm-up pattern and into the staging area. And so for the time trial staging area, because we're knocking off a lot of people one right after another, it gets a little crowded there, but there's still plenty of room. So really pay attention to the start marshals that are out there and the officials that are out there, because they'll help guide your way. And for those who have been to the course for the last few years, if you remember, I think last year it was the first time we adopted lane 1 is actually the farthest lane from shore, and lane 7 is the closest lane to shore. So the time trial lanes will be lanes 5 and 7. And you will likely have an official either in a stake boat helping you into your correct time trial lane, or on the start tower. So you'll have plenty of assistance in making sure that you get into the time trial lane. So once you paddle through the stake boats and start spooling up, the first 100 meters of the course are marked by red buoys. After that, they switch to yellow buoys. So the first 100 meters of the course is where you have time to gain your speed and get ready to row into the start of the time trial, which is 1900 meters. So after those red buoys go away, you should be on the clock. And just to make sure, you can always look over on to the inside of the course where you are warming up, and there will be a launch staked out there with timers and an official in there. So after you get going, remember that every 250 meters, the course has red buoys across the lanes, so sort of help you know where you are. And every 500 meters, there's red buoys across the lanes with big orange buoys. So when you get into the last 250 meters of the course, there are red buoys also. So that's when you know it's really time to bring the heat. So when you get to the end of the course, you'll have a line of yellow buoys, followed 5 meters later by big orange buoys. So we always suggest that everybody rows through the big orange buoys, even though that's 5 meters after the finish of the race. So after you're finished, if you want to cool down, you can keep on heading the same direction for about 300 to 400 meters, as long as it's sort of in line of sight of the beach. That way we can, for safety reasons, keep an eye on crews. Feel free to keep on cruising past the finish line. And if you get to the rowing club that's down there with the dock, you've gone too far, please turn around, because you're starting to stray a little too far out of our reach. So when you come back in and land, always be cognizant of racers that are on the course, because you will have to cross the finish line on the inside of the course to land on the beach. So please make sure that you're paying attention if there's anybody on the course, anybody close to finishing. If it's during the time trial, that you wait until they cross the finish line, and then you proceed across the finish line on the inside of the course, because that can trigger our timing cameras. So the next slide, sprint racing traffic pattern, pretty much the same thing. You head up the course, just remembering port oars on the red buoys, green oars on the green, starboard oars on the green buoys. And after you get done with your warm-up, stage in behind the start tower, and you'll be asked to enter the course when it's your time to race. There you'll row past the stake boats and then back into them, and Dee will go over that a little bit more. You'll race with the same buoys in the same places, except this is 2,000 meters instead of 1,900. And then at the finish of the race, same thing. Feel free to have a little bit of a cool down, and then make sure that when you're heading back to the beach that you pay attention to any races that are finishing, and wait till a race completely finishes before you cross the finish line on the inside of the race course.
There's a couple of questions in the Q&A, and I'll answer the one about the time trials. There is not going to be a horn or a sound for the start. Once you are released into your lane to start building speed for the first 100 meters, that's it. It's like head racing in a way. You're going to just get up to speed, and you will be on the clock once you get to the end of the first 100 meters. There also will not be a horn when you cross the finish line to let you know that you have. That's why we want you to row through the big orange buoys that are at the finish, because everybody will be released and staggered to come down about 15 to 20 seconds apart. So you will be heading down, and I'll talk about the time trials, I think, in the next screen, about how we're going to manage that. But the answer to that is there is not going to be a sound to let you know. This regatta will be obviously conducted by the USRowing Rules of Rowing. The 2022 rules of racing are out and published, and are online on the USRowing.org website for those of you who have not obtained a new book. So it is the responsibility of everyone to understand and know the rules of rowing. In terms of the equipment for your shells, you'll be working with your coaches and everything, but we are going to be checking when you go to launch your boats. We're going to be checking bow balls, and we are going to be checking heel ties. And then we will be issuing you a bow number at that time. So there will be people there, and if your heel ties are not secured to at least a minimum of, we use, I don't know, 3 fingers, 3 inches, then we'll ask you to step aside so that those heel ties can get secured. They're very important, because if there should be any kind of a flip in a boat, you need to make sure that your feet, that your heels will come out of the shoes that are in your boat, and that you don't get trapped underneath the boat. So that's the reason why. If for some reason, when you're on the course, even down in the warm-up area, or when you're coming up to the start, if you have something that is broken equipment in your boat, let the nearest race official or referee know so that we can work with you to see what we can do to accommodate, whether that means get the equipment out there if we have time, because it's, you know, there are a few races yet before yours, or however we can do it. But if there's broken equipment, also in terms of racing, if something happens and you have broken equipment in the first 100 meters of a race, then, and broken equipment is like, you know, you're not that your oar lock popped open, that's having to do with not securing it, but and a jumped slide is not broken equipment. But if you literally have a rigger that's, you know, coming off, or you have something mechanically with the boat, or something that's actually broken equipment, we will stop the race and figure that out. Next slide. Still kind of on land, getting to the racing kind of thing, except for time trials, which we know where you're headed, and your bow number is going to give us a clue as to where you're sequenced in there. Coxswains, you need to know your event time and your event number, so that when you get out there and you're out there in the warm-up area and you're listening for your race, or we're trying to find you, you need to be able to get up to behind the start, at least within 10 minutes of when your race is going to occur, so that you're prepared and ready to come on and get onto the stake boats. So you can even use a piece of masking tape to write it on. I wouldn't suggest permanent marker on your hand, but there are ways that you can get a piece of masking tape, write it down. If you don't, then put it across on your uniform so that you have it available. We are beach launching. It's a nice sandy beach. There are no docks. So if you're used to that and you're not familiar with beaches, you're going to be walking your boat out into the lake, and it's going to be up and overhead and down. But remember that when your rowers get into your boat, that the boat is going to, with the weight, the boat is going to sink down a bit, which is normal. You know what it's like, but you don't want to get into that boat so close to the shore that essentially you break your skeg. And that can happen if you're not kind of watching how far out in the water you're going to get. Return the bow numbers when you're done and you've had a great race. And then for hot seating, coaches, if you're listening, essentially please come up to Control Commission so that we can work out the hot seating arrangements. There will be an area on the beach which will be by control, so that we can work out the exchange of rowers into a boat, and then bring your boats down to get checked early if you're going to be hot boating instead of hot seating. Just generally on the water, I think Kyle already talked about once you're warming up and heading out, time trials are going to be a little bit difficult to kind of stop for everyone, because they're going to be sequenced and flying down the course. But be courteous, don't get too close to the course, and do slow down for races that are going by so that they don't get distracted. He talked about not stopping on the, well, we're not going to drift into the way of the aligner, so we're not going to worry about that one. And then we don't want you sitting on the finish line. There will be electronic timing. So you need to remember that though you're excited to see your friends come down on the race behind you, if you sit on the finish line trying to see who's going to win, you'll interfere with the electronic timing, and folks on the finish will be yelling at you. Follow the traffic pattern. We've gone over it, and there will be large maps at the venue so that you can see what you're supposed to be doing and where you're going. And if you don't know, please ask any race official what's going on. They'll have a copy of the maps. And yes, in terms of warming up, the circle pattern that is out there, please stay with that. Don't keep going and row out to the island and beyond, because we aren't going to be able to track you, and you're going to wind up missing your race because we don't have any kind of safety features out there. So for time trials, essentially you're going to be sequentially coming off the off the warm-up area and headed over to lanes 5 and 7. And there will be start marshals out there to help you get lined up and even sequentially. So knowing your numbers, you can look for those with similar numbers and get yourself into the category that you're supposed to be. Here's where you do need to know your timing. So if you're in the first set of the group that's going to be released, if you're doubles, singles, whatever we're doing, you need to know what your timing is so that you can get into the appropriate spot. There will be lots of help. You'll have 100 meters we talked about to get up to speed. And then there will be referees along the course for your safety. If you are being overtaken by a boat behind you, you need to move into out of the way. And the best way to do it is, like, for example, if you're in lane 7, you're going to move into lane 6. And if you're in lane 5, you're going to move over toward lane 4 so that you get out of the way of the oncoming boat and don't interfere with their ability to get a quick time. The referees will also let you know and give you a heads up if you need to yield and you're not paying attention. So make sure that you're listening for any kinds of commands like that. If you have any issues that you think may have happened on the time trial, there should be a finish marshal at the end, and you can ask those questions of the finish marshal and see if there are any issues there. Okay, on water 2.
So indeed, before we go on, I just want to add one thing. There was a few questions just about bow numbers. So both time trial and sprint racing bow numbers will be provided. So they'll be distributed as you launch, but both of those will be provided. You do not need to bring your own.
There you go. We'll take care of getting you bow numbers. And Control Commission will then also know when you launch, which is another safety feature for keeping track of everybody. For starting, so when we move into the actual racing situation, the starter, when you come up, the start marshal will give you a warning that your race is coming up and ask you to move over behind the start and tell you where to be so that you can wait. Then you will be invited on by the starter, who will, announce your race and invite you on and give you how many minutes you have until the race is going to begin. It will usually be like 5 minutes. We're going to be able to come through the stake boats, right, Kyle?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so you will line up behind your lane, and then you will come up beside the stake boats that are there and get locked on. And there will be people inside those boats, and your coach, I know, has worked with you about this to be able to come on, and then there will be someone who will be holding the stern of your boat and will be going through the starting commands. The starter will count down the minutes and tell you how many minutes there are. You must be locked on by 2 minutes before race time. So you shouldn't be lollygagging in the warming area. If you are not locked on by 2 minutes, you may receive a warning. And we would announce it. We would call out your crew name, and we would give you a warning late to start. The starts themselves, we should hopefully we'll have calm water and no wind, but you should be responsible, coxswains, for knowing how to scull your boat to keep your point, because you want to be pointed right down the race course, following the instructions of the starter. If there's some wind, they will tell you which way you should be pointing, but you should know how to scull. And then when the starter is ready, they will begin to announce the names of the crew. It'll look like this. I'm going to slide back just a minute. so we can see if we can give you something that sort of looks like this. They'll say things like Green Lake, Station L, and then they'll say, and they'll go through all the lanes. So now you know you need to be getting ready. Attention, and they'll raise a flag that looks like this, which is red with a white cross. And then they will drop the flag and say go at the same time. So it'll be go. So it'll, when that happens and you have your stroke or whatever it is watching the flag, go on the movement of the flag. You may or may not hear the word go. So don't sit to wait to get it. You will go on the movement of the flag. If you are not ready, if something has happened in your boat and you are not ready to row, as hard as it would be, and this would be a difficult thing, don't go. Everybody else around you may be leaving, but if you have a reason that you are not ready to row, and this is, you know, it needs to be like you're pointed all wrong or something that somebody didn't see, the referees will stop the race and they will bring the other rowers back, and we will start again, and we'll find out what your reasoning is, and the race officials, the referees on the water, will make the decision about whether or not it was a justified not go. But you do have the right not to go, and you can remember that, and we'll start all over again. If it gets to be windy and or we've had trouble getting people to lock on to their boat or some kind of difficulty, the starter can make the decision to use a quick start. And a quick start goes like this. The starter will say, this will be a quick start, attention, go. So there are two ways that you may be started, and you need to listen. After you've started down the course, referees will be following you, and they will be using a white flag to be able to tell you a direction that they may want you to go. If they feel that you're not in your lane and that you may be going to interfere with someone else that may be next to you, your water is your own between those buoy markers. Once your oars start to leave those buoy markers, then you're at risk of interfering with another crew that might be next door to you. And so the referee's job is to come up behind you, call out your name, they'll raise the white flag, and then they will drop it in the direction they want you to go. They won't talk to you, but they will call out your name and then drop the flag if they want you to move. So coxswains and bow loaders, you need to make sure that you have that your bow is watching in case the referee comes up behind you. And for stern coxswains, you need to make sure your stroke is keeping an eye on something like that so that you begin to move. The breakage zone, again, is 100 meters. So if something happens and it breaks, you're obviously going to stop rowing, and we will in all likelihood stop the race, try to figure out what's going on and whether it can be repaired and what we need to do. Okay, that does sprints, I think, pretty well. When you get down there to the finish, as you build your speed to do that last bit, Kyle said the last 250 meters turns to red buoys again. So you're really going to be putting the power on. Row through the large orange buoys at the end. You will hear a horn. If for some reason, while the racing is happening, and you felt that you were interfered with, or there was some situation that you want to object to, you need to raise your hand, and the race official will come over and they'll talk to you about what your objection may be, and they will work through it with you. They will ask you what you want, what happened. They'll tell you whether they saw what happened, and they will make a decision on the water right there and resolve it with you. If you don't agree, there is a way that you can protest. Once you've left the race then and gone to land and talked to your coach about it, you have 1 hour from the time you get to land to file a protest with the chief judge or the chief referee. That would be me or whoever I have in charge of the finish. And $50, you need to write up an explanation of what you want and bring it there. And then we will take up a jury to consider your protest. Unsportsmanlike conduct. It seems that profanities in general have happened with more frequency in our sport. And we understand that everybody gets excited and that maybe even among your friends, excuse me, some swear words or profanities are commonplace and everybody isn't getting upset about them necessarily, but we do in US rowing. And really this is a sport where everybody needs to be professional, and sportsmanlike, unsportsmanlike conduct is just not tolerated. If we hear or see something that is going on, we can, it's not only grounds for exclusion, it's grounds for, the word just escaped me. I can have not only exclusion is the penalty, but I can as a race official, we can stop you from being in any further races. We can exclude you from the entire event. We can exclude an entire crew for the behavior of one. So it's really serious, and we want you to make sure that you are conducting yourself in a good manner at all times while you're on the venue and racing. We are now going to go into emergency plan. The protocol for false starts. Disqualification is what I was thinking of. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. The protocol for false starts is there will be an aligner, obviously off to the side, that will line up the boats and give the commands to the stake boat holders to adjust the boats. If there is a false start and somebody jumps the gun or jumps the flag, then we basically will call everybody back. There you'll hear horns that will sound. There will be red flags waving at you, so you'll get the real quick idea that something went wrong. You will be called back and we will start again, and whoever was responsible for the false start that got everybody to jump out there will be given a warning. And the word that I was looking for is disqualification, which is absolutely serious as opposed to exclusion for a penalty. If you interfere with somebody during a race and we call interference at the end of the race and advise you what we observed, we can exclude you from winning, placing, or advancing for that particular race. You would be out. And are there red and white flags at time trials as well, or just sprint races? There are only red and white flags during the sprint races. The starter's flag will be red with that white cross. If they try to stop a race, the referees will have a red flag. So if you ever see a red flag, that's trying to tell you to stop, and a white flag. If during time trials, a referee is trying to get your attention and they want you to yield or move, they can use their white flag to call out your crew name and remind you that you need to move out of the way, and they would direct you into the open lane that's beside you. How are we doing here?
All right, this is me.
That's you.
Yep. So we do have an emergency plan if someone requires to the level of emergency medical services. We do have 2 tiers that are stationed at the park. Near the finish line tent, we have a first aid tent for anybody that requires any kind of first aid, whether it be cuts, burns, bruises, even roll an ankle, need an ice pack, need a Band-Aid. That's the place to go. Sometimes that's the best place to go if you can make it there. We also have an ambulance that will be stationed at the park for a little bit more extreme emergencies. But if you can't get to those services quickly, don't know how to locate them, the best thing to do is to call 911. And remember to tell the dispatcher that you are at Vancouver Lake Regional Park, not Vancouver Lake, and I'm at a rowing event, because they might go to Vancouver Lake Rowing Club that's next door. So really make sure to drill home it's Vancouver Lake Regional Park, because most people probably won't remember the 6801 Northwest Lower River Road in Vancouver as the address. So make sure to provide the emergency medical services with things like the name, your name, and phone number, so they can call you back if you lose connection, the number of victims and the condition of the people that are affected, and any first aid that's already administered that might or might not be working, and just be a great help to the dispatcher any way you can, so they can dispatch services. And then once they're called, please contact at the finish line tent, probably the best place to find us, either myself or Molly, along with Dee, because we need to know what's going on at the venue. And once that happens, we can help with an escort to the entrance of the park to get EMS where they're needed. And then once EMS calls, we'll assist any way we can. So really just keep cognizant of what's going on. Take advantages of the services that we have provided. But if it comes down to it, please don't feel like you can't call 911. Definitely do it if it comes to that.
All right, I'm going to jump in here to give everybody a few reminders about the venue. I'm Molly. Welcome, everybody. We're excited to have all our Northwest teams back out to Vancouver Lake. I know many of you are familiar with the venue, and also many coaches and coxswains and athletes will be coming out for their first time. So you can check out the venue map here. There's been a couple updates. The most recent map is also on that venue guidelines packet. So there will be a fee to get into the park. We're asking that you have cash ready, small bills if you can, just to help things go smoothly. This year, we are running a new schedule. We have a whole new line of events, time trials in the morning on Friday and Saturday, and we're a little interested to see how the parking flow goes early in the morning for those time trial events, since it's a little bit different. So just plan to give yourself a little extra time. The park staff are going to do the best that they can to get you in quickly. We will be selling 3-day and 2-day passes on Friday and Saturday to help things go exponentially quicker with each day of the regatta. So just be ready for that. We are asking that you remind your teams to leave their dogs at home for this event. We have spectator parking available in the overflow parking lot as noted on the map, and it'll be pretty clear once you enter the park on where to go. This year in the Northwest, our equipment rental vendors are telling us it's their busiest event season ever. And there's also really high labor and transportation costs. So along with our permit for the event, we have kept the Eagle Shelter noted on the right side of the map, which is the north side. We are keeping that open for any athletes and spectators that are in need of a place to shelter, to sit, to have their snack or do stretching. So that shelter is available to all. not reserved by any one team. Teams may set up a few 10 by 10 tents in their boat areas, but anything larger should go out by that shelter so that we have enough boat space for everybody in the park. Keep your boat storage areas compact so there's plenty of room for all. I know y'all will be, you know, playing nice and doing the best that you can. The park is pretty squishy right now. We've had a lot of rain and it has continued to dump today, and it'll continue to rain as we set up for the event on Wednesday and Thursday. So just do the best that you can finding your spots, and you can find me. I'll be out there Wednesday and Thursday. I'm happy to help. We'll have volunteers out there that will be happy to help. And let's just work together and make it a really fun event out at Vancouver Lake. We are making a few trailer parking alternative contingencies, just depending on how the week goes with rainfall. So Kyle will give you a little update on that.
So the trailer parking lot that we traditionally use is pretty darn soft. We were out at the lake today after one of our many spring rain showers, and it was really squishy. So we're looking at tire tracks that were left from team using the course last weekend or this weekend, and it's a little sketchy. So we want to let everybody know that we might make last minute changes to trailer parking and mainly probably boat offloading. So what might happen is we would have teams offload their boats in the paved parking lot area to reduce the weight of the trailers before they pull into either that south lot that we traditionally park in, park the trailers in, or if it gets really bad, we might switch to the north trailer parking lot for trailer storage. So really we're watching the heavens, waiting to see what happens, and walking the park every day and hoping that it can just be status quo. But be aware and work with us if there are last minute changes.
And we also have volunteer openings available still. We had a couple questions in the Q&A. So feel free to jump on the Regatta Central site and share that volunteer sign up with your parents. Local teams, we're still looking for help with setup, tear down, and we've got opportunities for folks to help out with start line timing on the water, finish line timing. So parents, once your parents know your athlete's race schedule, you can encourage them to come on down the volunteer tent, and we'll put them to work, and they can learn a little bit more about the sport through hands-on experience.
Awesome. Thanks, Molly. There's a question about progression. All of that is posted in the entry packet. And there are a few more questions popping in here. For the LOC, are half laps of the warm-up loop allowed if needed?
That's up to Dee, but traditionally, if it's going to cause you to be late to your race, you could cut the warm-up pattern, but you shouldn't be cutting the warm-up pattern. You should plan accordingly for your timing.
There should be a warm-up marshal out there. And if you do need to cut the pattern, you should check in with, there'll be somebody that will be moving up and down, and you can check in with the warm-up marshal. Our concern is that you cut across and that you're going to, be entering into a traffic pattern that could be dangerous for both you and boats coming at you. So.
Awesome. We have one question here. Our trailer will be arriving well before our athletes, so unloading in the paved area, which he notes is a brilliant idea. So great job, Kyle. Won't be possible. Is there a plan B?
Yeah, that's why our initial thought was that teams that are arriving on Thursday and unloading on Thursday would be able to do that in the paved area. And then trailers that are not doing that will either go on ahead and stuff you in the overflow lot and just work with a few ruts. We're trying to spare as many stuck trailers and deep, muddy ruts as possible. Or you may be located in a north overflow lot. So we'll be sure that you get a spot and you're taken care of.
Perfect. All right. Well, those are all the questions right now. So I'll just emphasize this will all be posted, both the recording and the PowerPoint tomorrow evening. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. But thank you guys for joining us tonight, and we will see you very soon. Have a good night.
Great racing coming up.
Yeah.
See you soon.